All across the world, a great awakening is happening. Right here, right now. The Earth is a plane, not a planet. Come on, Earthlings. It's time to drop the T. Our realm of existence, it's flat, it's fixed, and it has a firmament.
The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork.
The Earth is a closed system. We cannot leave the Earth.
We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that.
Fasten your seatbelts. The #1 weekly Flat Earth podcast is about to engage your senses.
All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Welcome, citizens of plain Earth, to Dome Life.
Amber Plaster again, ladies and gentlemen, to kick things off this week here on Dome Life with Paul and Mitch, exposing the globe lie, among other lies. Hello and welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Paul on the Plane. That fellow over yonder is my good friend and fellow flatmate, Mitchell from Australia. How are you, Mitch?
I'm great, Paul. How are you, mate?
You like that, flatmate?
I like flatmate, because we are in the same building here.
That's right. That's right. And we have a very special co-host this week joining us, a man that needs no introduction, but I'll do it anyway. You know him, you love him, unless you hate him, but you definitely know him, the man, the myth, the legend, in his own time, and definitely in his own mind, is none other than the Mark Sargent. Mark, thank you for carving out a bit of your time during your quarantine to be with us. How are you, sir?
I thought this was some sort of party line 976 number, so apparently I hit the wrong thing. Well, I'm going to fake it anyway. So I'm naked too, and
optional during this broadcast.
You know what? I'm just going to do this naked. That'll have to do.
That's the beauty of podcasting, especially when you are podcasting from your own home. Everything is optional, including clothing. Wow. Well, thank you again both for joining us. We're off to a roaring start, and thank you for hitting that play button again this week, wherever you may be across our extended motionless plane, if I could talk. We sincerely appreciate that you have decided to make us a part of your quarantine. And if you're new to the podcast, welcome. We're glad you're here. Hope you enjoy this week's installment. All right, what's going on in this episode? Well, we're probably going to end up talking about obviously the unprecedented time that we find ourselves in here. So many people around the world, I'm finding, are voluntarily quarantining themselves due to belief that the government authorities can make them stay home, close their businesses, wear masks in public, even though they don't have the authority to do that. It's all just perception, I guess. Driven by media-propagated fear-mongering. So what I thought we'd talk about today, gentlemen, is the end game. Where do we think this is going? It's obvious that, the powers that should not be, of course, failed to get the numbers high enough, and I'm talking about the death rate of this so-called virus. So now, this is what at least I'm seeing in my neck of the woods. Mark, you're probably hearing some of the same news, being in the same state. Citizens of our land are starting to exercise their God-given rights of freedom and demand that, let's get this economy moving again. They want to go back to work, open restaurants, other recreational activities. And for Pete's sake, let the people of Washington go fishing. Am I right? Our governor here in the state of Washington actually closed down recreational fishing. I think he was the only governor that did that, from what I understand. But anyway, that's what I thought we'd kind of talk about today. And before we get started there, I think a logical conclusion, because this is the other component of this, a logical conclusion for the end game is going to be, some sort of a mandatory, or appear to be a mandatory vaccination. And that, Mitch, I know that's what you've kind of been preparing to share some information about during the second segment of this show. which obviously you don't want to miss. But before we go there, let's spend kind of the balance of the first part of the show here talking about what you, especially you, Mark, are calling. I want to hear more about this. The event.
The event.
Now, there may be some people that are listening to this show that don't listen to your show on Strange World Weekly on TFR, and I have no idea why they wouldn't, but let's say they don't. That's a whole other show. But you've been talking about an event that may be coming for a couple of weeks now, and could you kind of elaborate on that? Because it's an interesting hypothesis for sure.
Yeah, sure. There's really only two ways this whole thing can go down right now, which is either we'll go with the lesser of two evils, which is even if you turned on the switch right now, it's similar to firing back up a steam powered train. That is, it takes a lot to get going. So either we're going to hit some sort of long, drawn-out depression followed by an Orwellian dystopian future that we only thought was a nightmare in futurist novels, or what I call the event. Because right now, the only common denominator that I have found, and I'm a big believer in common denominators, it's what I look for when I try to create things, because you try to get to the masses. The only thing that all these things that we've been running into for the last 5, 6, whatever you want to, let's take it all the way back to January, has in common is that it has put everyone home. Everybody's home. And that is very, very specific. It takes me back to, I'm going to be jumping around a little bit here, the Close Encounters of the Third Kind movie, which was, when they were trying to get everyone away from Devil's Tower. Right. And if you zoom in on the movie, it's very fascinating. When they were jotting stuff down on paper, it's only on frame for like a second or two. The first 3 ideas they had were some sort of virus to get everyone out of Wyoming so that they could do their government operation in Wyoming. But then the general says, yeah, but you're going to run into somebody who swears they're immune. We need something so scary that everyone's going to leave. So that's when they came up with cyanide gas coming out of a train. So here's what I've been trying to get to people is the reason why you try to get everyone home is because there's something that's going to follow this. And I call it the event because it's something so big and potentially scary or panic-inducing that the general population, you don't know how they're going to react. And so I'll give you a quick example, and then I'll give you an example of what you could do at home if you're listening to this, to try to drive the point home. And that was, I can't remember if you and I talked about this, Paul, where there was an earthquake in Washington, D.C., maybe, 10 years ago, give or take, where it actually cracked the Washington Monument a little bit, and they had to close it down for a while. And it was early in the morning, between, 8:30 and 9 or something like that. And when it happened, 2 things immediately followed. One was every parent, mostly mothers in this case, called the schools up simultaneously. Just the second the earthquake stopped, parents were calling the schools, calling, and they absolutely jammed up the phone lines instantly. And then because they couldn't get through, what do you think they did? They got into their car and drove. And the freeways got jammed up, and that's something you can't let happen, because it is. In fact, it's funny because I've been watching a lot of movies, even more than most recently, and just about every disaster movie has that subplot. Whereas there are family members that are apart from each other, and there's the journey of trying to find each other. That's like every disaster movie that's out there. It's like, where's my wife or spouse or kids or ex-wife or whoever? It doesn't really matter.
They spend the balance of the movie trying to get back together.
Yes,
right?
yeah. That's the plot.
That's
the plot.
The reunion.
Yeah, and that's something you cannot let happen on a national scale. It's secondary chaos, which is, I'm telling you this as the world's greatest secret agent. That's something you cannot let happen. And so here's the analogy I came up with. So you take a piece of paper, any piece of paper, and in 4 corners write the letter A. It doesn't have to be uppercase, lowercase, who cares? 4 A's, 1 in each corner. And then take one of those corners of the piece of paper and take a circle, right? Draw a circle in the middle of it and put 4 letter B's. Then tear the paper in half. Well, family A or family B, who's in better shape? Because tearing the paper in half, that is the event, in my opinion. Something that's so disruptive that the family may have a problem getting to each other. And so you might think, oh, well, it's a kindness. They're being nice to us. Like, no. No, it's just, if you want to rebuild, I call it an infrastructure event. If something happens, I don't care if it's a supervolcano or tectonic or celestial, which we'll get to in a second, whatever it is, is so big that the last thing you want is family members to, because remember, family members, that is one thing the movies do get right, in that mothers will absolutely get in the car with like a quarter tank of gas.
And her cubs are separated.
Oh, yeah.
Beware.
Yeah. The last thing you ever want to see in the forest is a cub. If you ever see a bear cub, just run. Just run as fast as you weigh. Do not stop to take pictures. Just run. I mean, the stories are all true and they're all horrible. So, but that's what mothers would do. And so, this infrastructure event. The short version I'm trying to say here is what's happening now isn't scary enough. It's not. You have not scared the population enough. All you've really done is irritated them. Yeah. More than anything. I mean, you've closed down 160 plus countries, which, by the way, it's no small feat, and America keeps forgetting what's happening outside of America. It's the whole world. 80% of the world's working population is not working. It's dare I say biblical? It's so huge. That's right. It is. It's epic. We've never ever seen anything like this, and it's based on almost nothing. The analogy I came up with was because people are saying, why aren't you taking this that seriously? I go, here, or why are people going to the parks? Why are like some hair salons opening or never closed? Or why are people just dying to get, like Vegas is going to reopen, Georgia's going to reopen. The window is closing right now. You've got to pull the trigger on this thing right now. And the reason is I call it the no zombie effect. Which is, imagine if the news all of a sudden started running stories on a regular basis saying there's zombies. There's zombies. Oh yeah, there's zombies here, there's zombies there. But they're not showing you any zombies. They're just saying there's zombies. Well, you can only do that so long. Before people all of a sudden start talking to each other. Saying, hey, Fred, have you seen a zombie? No, I haven't seen it. Tom? Nope, I haven't seen one either. You have enough people comparing notes, especially through social media. Eventually, enough people are like, yeah, well, we haven't seen any zombies. Let's go to the bar. Let's go to the park. Let's go to the beach. And let's just reopen as normal. In fact, real quick, because you're in Washington, you know where Linden is, right? North?
Yep.
Like Linden and Blaine and like the north end of the by Canada. Well, Linden's reopening now. They screwed it. They said that the whole town, the mayor just said, you know what? You guys want to suffer in an economic death? Go ahead. We're going to reopen.
We're stay home.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're scared, stay home. That's fine. But we're not going to force people to stay home if they don't want to. Exactly.
And it's a northern European type community, a lot of blonde-haired people, white people, and they're like, yeah, you know what? And they're not alone. I mean, there's a lot of cities that have motivation. Most of the time, it comes down to the dollars. And one more quick sidetrack, which is the city of Vancouver, just north of us, big Canadian city. And this is the big reason why most people didn't have a lot of savings to begin with. I mean, really didn't have a lot of savings. So in April, they estimated that 60% of people in Vancouver didn't pay their mortgages. In April. Wow. And they say if we go to May, that'll drop to 50%. Wow. And it'll just get worse from there. And as you can imagine. So, sorry. Let me try to wrap this up in a big bow, which is the event. The people are not scared enough. They're just not. If you want to try to push, and you still may be able to do some of it. You want to push some Orwellian dystopian future where everyone's wearing masks and they're going to try to roll out the vaccine thing, which I know you're going to talk about. That's fine and all, but it would help a great deal if there was a catalyst to go with it. Something that really shocked people. So you're watching kind of like watching a horror movie. You're kind of scared, but you're waiting for the jump scare. You're waiting for something big where all of a sudden the first victim goes down. And that's what show me the zombies is basically what I've been hoping for. So the event for me has got to be really huge, and it can't just be in America, because why would you shut down 160 countries? So like even touching off like the supervolcano in Yellowstone, that's fine, but that doesn't explain why you closed down India. Yep. Of 1.3 billion people, and you closed it down when they didn't even have triple-digit deaths. Less than 100 people dead, and you closed down 1 billion people? How do you pull that off? So for me, it's either tectonic or, I'd love it to be some sort of light show, some sort of celestial event, as it were. But whatever it is has got to be big, and it has to affect more than one country. If you want to turn it into like a giant multi-stage terrorist attack, yeah, that's fine. I mean, it seems a little pedestrian by most science fiction standards, but whatever it is, it's got to be really, really big and really, really potentially scary. So that's what I'm kind of looking for. I would love to think it would be a massive celestial event, not necessarily Nibiru. If you guys want to watch Melancholia, I recommend that to go down that road. But that's what I think is coming. Something it's set. You bring people home for one reason, and that is to reduce the infrastructure chaos, the panic that goes with it.
Wow.
So there you go. Sorry, that's my ramble.
No, good. It's definitely an interesting hypothesis because, it's like Groundhog Day right now for me. You wake up every morning and it's like, oh, again? The same thing over and over and over again. And you're like, there has to be something else going on. Because if this was, you're right. Either something big has to happen soon or they're going to have to, or they've just tried to make and this is kind of where my theory comes in, is they've drawn a line in the sand right now. And they've made kind of a memory in time, a moment in time where you're like, remember when we had to send everybody home? Do you remember when the economy was the stock market was crashing and you were out of work for 6 weeks? Do you remember all of that? Well, if you don't do this, maybe it's the vaccine or whatever, then that's where we're going back. And so they've kind of made some sort of a look back period, a moment in time where they can say, we just came out of that. You don't want to go back there, do you? You know what I mean? And to your point, you can't do this twice. This is something. There was a point of no return that was reached a couple of weeks ago, which is because the economic negative reinforcement is so extreme in this case. I mean, we're talking about people now the reason why they're protesting is like, look, our businesses are going to go under, a lot of them, and we're not going to reopen. And when we reopen, you think people are going to go to restaurants? You think people are going to travel? You're talking about, and they have no plans for any sort of large gathering at all. So you can't. This would turn into the biggest cry wolf in history. Which is fine. 40. We'll just round up. Let's say 50,000 by the time this is over. 50,000 people died in 5 months in the United States. That's nothing. That's literally nothing in the grand scheme of things. It is the same amount as suicide. We let people like that die every day without.
Oh yeah. Americans look. Absolutely. America lets people die for money. That's not me being callous. That's just how it works.
That's the truth.
The line from Fight Club is, if the cost of the recall or if the cost of the lawsuits is less than the cost of the recall, we don't do one.
Let them burn.
Let them burn. Let the brakes fail. We don't care. And so all of a sudden you're shutting there's a secondary reason for this. Now, could you push the mandatory testing, the mandatory vaccinations as it stands right now? Yeah, you could, but you're never going to be able to come in and say, oh, by the way, the virus mutated. Or, oh, by the way, we're in our second wave or third wave, because people just they're not going to stand for it anymore. Yeah. Because of people like,
that's
you know what?
The narrative we're getting now, and now that we're seeing, and everybody's kind of looking around going, gosh, I'm not tripping over bodies in the street now like we thought we were, like we were told that this was going to be something so serious that we needed to shut the world down. It was obviously for a good reason. Now we're seeing sheriffs, start saying, "Hey, I'm not going to follow the governor's orders." Here in Franklin County, just across the river from me, the Franklin County commissioners and the sheriffs there are saying, "Nope, we're not going to enforce those rules because it just didn't happen. It just didn't happen." So people are getting extremely irritated. The first 2 weeks, okay, we'll do it for the good of other people. 4 weeks, oh gosh, this is ridiculous. Now when they're starting to talk about, June. And, like you said, no large gatherings. People are just starting to get kind of pissed off now. They're just this is a little bit ridiculous. So there's got to be something else, whether it's a big event or there's something else coming down the pipe. They're probably, my guess is they're going to make this out like the flu sort of thing, where every year, the coronavirus, it's a different strain. It's mutated. We got to pick out which one this year. And so now you're going to get your, if you're elderly, you're going to have to get your pneumonia shot, your flu shot, your coronavirus shot, pregnant women, immune compromised. Now they'll be lining up for that at a minimum. That's what they'll be able to do.
their big problem though is this ridiculous. I mean, we'll remember that line from Spaceballs. The ludicrous amounts of money we're talking about right now, where they passed. How many? We're into what stage 3.5 or 4, where we're talking $4 trillion that have been spent just to prop up the economy.
Yeah, like
and by the way,
3.5 now or something like that. At least.
Yeah. And by the way, the stock market, which went down to was 19 at one point, and now it's back up to like 24. Yeah. That's being propped up by the bond market. The United States is literally just creating money as fast as they can to keep the stock market from absolutely tanking, which makes no sense. But then, of course, all the mixed messages. Here's let me throw this out there. For those that still believe in the pandemic, if this thing was an actual pandemic, first off, you would know people that died. Plain and simple. I don't care about you say, oh, no, I knew a case. And don't tell me about somebody who knew somebody who somebody's brother may have died. No. Do you know somebody that died? That's the first thing. But the second thing is there's a lot of things that are still open that should have closed almost immediately. First and foremost would be the airports. The airports are all still open. If I wanted to fly to Florida right now and connect through 2 cities on the way, I absolutely could do that without any question. And those planes, it's not how pandemics work. If you're in a plane, it's an incubator. That's all it is.
Everybody gets off the plane and they're sick.
Yeah, exactly. I have been
what they said it was.
Yeah, I've done business travel many times where I've gotten on planes, and it would have happened super quickly. Every model we have ever used since the 70s said the same thing, and that is once you got to that first airport, those people get off and go to other planes and go to other connecting things, and that's it. The whole world in 2 weeks. That's it. I mean, it is the premise of one of Stephen King's early books called The Stand, which was once the first Air Force or whoever Army guy that got out of the containment thing, once he made it to a bus, that bus made it to an airport, that was it.
Game over.
It was game over, and we don't see that. Plus the other things, if you were really serious, again, you want to panic people, but not too much. The big thing for me was the grocery stores. That was the obvious thing, which was you did no testing at the grocery stores for weeks and weeks and weeks. In fact, they're still not testing at the door because they don't want to scare people. And plus, everybody's sharing the same shopping carts. I don't care if you say who's wiping down. I've been to many stores where they're not wiping down anything. And everyone's going to the same stores twice a week. I mean, that itself is an incubator. I mean, yeah, you can say that some stores are, making people distance lined up. When were they doing that? They weren't doing it in January and February and March.
Grocery store and be 6 feet away. They'd have to be one-way roads.
Yeah,
and all of the packaging would be contaminated. I mean, yeah, if what they said was true about this thing originally, we would be in a lot different situation here, no question. So,
fine.
And I also
find a gas
station.
Go ahead.
Gas stations too. I also find it very interesting that the major cities in China, Beijing, Hong Kong, hard to get touched by this thing. They would have been the first. They would have been, bodies in the streets immediately.
Right.
The billion people that live over in that part of the world. And like you said, in India, another billion people live there in India, all on top of each other for the most part. They would be stacking bodies on street corners because of this. Just didn't happen. Didn't happen.
Absolutely. And the cities, not to beat a dead horse, but think of the cities, and full well, and I'm not trying to pick on any cities, but think of the really, really dense cities that didn't, it's like Rio, okay. Oh, I don't know. How about Mexico City?
Yeah.
Not exactly known for their high-end cleanliness. Why didn't it just rip through that? In fact, we haven't seen any stories from Mexico whatsoever. It's all been, in fact, even the United States, they focused on 3 states. Washington, which doesn't even seem to get top billing now. New York, which has half of the cases, makes no sense whatsoever. And California, all Democratic states, which I don't even want to get into right now. But the other thing was the death rate. So fine, let's say it's 50,000, right? Compared to the world, right? We have 4% of the world's population, right? If you believe in mainstream population stats, right? 4% of the world's population, but we have 30% of the virus deaths. How? I thought we should be leading. This isn't leading the other way, meaning we should have less and less and less. Sorry, it just
on and on and on. Looks like I got you on the soapbox. So no, that was
good.
Sorry. That was good stuff. No, thanks for explaining the event. Definitely going to be watching the skies. But like you said, it's gotta happen soon.
You gotta do it soon.
It's getting late.
Yeah, the window is closing, and the big reason you have to do it soon is because states are breaking ranks right now. There are states, there are towns, they're saying, yeah, you know what? They're doing the same thing I am, which is like, yeah, you're not showing me much. You're talking a good game, but you're not showing me much. Where are the bodies? You know, show me bodies, and show me the overwhelmed hospitals.
Reminds me of the Ferris Bueller.
Exactly.
Just roll the old bones in here.
Exactly, which is true. I mean, he was like, "Yeah, show me the body. I'll do it." And that there was a Richie from Boston. I think he had one of the best quotes. He goes, "Look, he goes, your neighbor. You know a neighbor that had died. He goes, the guy at the gas station. Oh, he's dead. Former friend of yours. He's dead. You would hear these stories, and nobody's heard it. In fact, the only people that have died. Last part on this. The part that also people really have to take into context is the struck down theory, which is even if you believe, fine, people die all the time, but everyone that seems to have died had underlying circumstances. They already had a health condition. Nobody that died seemed to have been struck down, like they were jogging, all of a sudden they coughed, and 5 days later they were dead. Nobody in perfect health was like, you never see interviews with people saying, it was a complete shock to us. He seemed so healthy. No, it was like, well, he had lung issues or kidney issues or whatever issues it was. Almost nobody, which makes me think that it was just some sort of flu that they just tacked on a name to.
They just changed the name of it and got the media behind it, and here we sit in our own homes, not wearing pants.
Exactly, with bad haircuts.
with no haircuts.
With no haircuts, because no one can get haircuts except for the military.
And Donald Trump.
And back alley hair salons, which is a real thing, by the way.
That's right. Yeah, black market haircuts.
Market haircuts.
We are headed to our first break, and I want to let everybody know here at the first break, you're going to hear a very special vaccine song that was sent to me last night, which I found absolutely hilarious, and it's going to be a lead into our second segment here. So enjoy that, and we will see you on the other side. Dome Life will be right back.
More Globe Live talk right after this on Dome Life.
Hi, this is Mark Sargent, the world's greatest secret agent, shill, sellout, and you're listening to Dome Life with Paul and Mitch. Are these flat earthers? Oh wait, no, I'm a flat earther? Dome Life. Listen to it.
Dome Life, the show where your voice is heard.
Keep it up, guys. Thanks for all you do.
Again, I truly enjoy your videos and your podcasts. I think you guys are doing an awesome job.
Anyways, that's my take for the week. I just wanted to share that. Love your stuff. Talk to you guys later.
Got a question, comment, or just want to say hi? Leave us a speak pipe at domelifepodcast.com.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Alex here from the Conspiracy Music Guru YouTube channel, aka Flat Earth Man. I've taken a new direction musically. I sent Bob from Globebusters one of my tracks, and this is what he had to say about it.
As soon as it started playing, I just got this incredibly warm feeling. It absolutely just touched me in a way that I can't even describe. It almost brought a little bit of a tear to my eye, and when I played it for Cammie, it did. It made her just out and out cry. This shows the side of Alex, which I had no idea. I knew he was a fabulous artist, but wow.
And you can hear why this album is resonating with so many at conspiracymusicguru.com. You can preview all the tracks there, and they're all recorded in 432 Hertz and also using solfeggio healing frequencies. I hope you love it as much as Bob did.
What's going on, everyone? It's Jaron from Jaronism here with a few reminders. First, you are listening to Dome Life with Paul and Mitch. And second, I'm reminding you that you are currently not spinning. You're welcome.
Folks, Alex Jones here with a quick message regarding fake news and media that's out there right now. We've been saying for years that you cannot trust a single mainstream news outlet. None of them. They're all bought and paid for. The global elites have finally gotten what they want. Got their hooks dug into each and every one of those forms of media. That's why I don't even listen. I don't read it. Of course, some of it gets passed across my desk, but I don't read it. I don't listen. You know what I listen to? The only thing that the global elites haven't gotten their hooks in, and that's Dome Life and the Flat Earth Podcast. Both of them incredible podcasts you can get on Spotify, iTunes, all your different various forms. Both of them real news, truth, so that you can be armed, so we can stick it to the elites. And if you want to stick it to the global elites, you got to stick it to the globe first. I got to take a break before I say something I regret.
Don't forget, you can listen to Dome Life on your smart speaker. Just say, "Hey Google, play Dome Life podcast."
Vaccine, 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 vaccine. You're what we need to get us out again. Vaccine, 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 vaccine. Please rid us of this bug and make it end. Your promise is beyond compare. We need your shot everywhere. We're tired of this endless quarantine. We've missed spring break and restaurants too. Our homemade meals are not so new. We're waiting for your power now. Vaccine, 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 vaccine. I'm begging you to show yourself. Vaccine, 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 vaccine. Only you can end this quarantine. We're tired of endless household tasks, wearing gloves and wearing masks. My house has never ever been this clean. I've watched Tiger King and Ozark too. What else am I supposed to do? I'm zooming every day, come on, vaccine. My yard has never looked this way. No weed is allowed to stay. My groceries are wiped down now. Vaccine. I've cleaned my closets, cleaned my car, taken walks but not too far. Can't travel but we have cheap gasoline. Vaccine, 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 vaccine. You're the only answer now. Vaccine, 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 vaccine. Oh, please arrive and end this quarantine. Vaccine.
All right, welcome back to the podcast. Hope you enjoyed the vaccine song. I took it and dropped some images of Bill Gates, of course, and people wearing sponges and shoes and mattress bags and maxi pads on their face while in public. I put it into a video. That song playing in the background and then posted it on my channel. I already had a few people comment saying, you know, that's a pro-vaccine song. I can't even... Most people don't see the... I guess it was a feeble attempt at humor. Some people were offended. Anyway, welcome back to the show. Paul on the plane here, and Mitchell from Australia, of course. And our very special co-host for this episode is none other than Mark Sargent. Spent the first segment talking a little bit about the event, the hypothesis that there's something big coming, that this was all getting us ready for. Very intriguing, in fact. We're going to kind of change gears a little bit here in the second segment, and we're going to talk a little bit about vaccines. Now, here's what's going on, as we were kind of discussing in the first segment. States are starting to break rank. It seems like it's kind of more the red states than the blue states. So there is some, political leanings here, obviously. But state by state, we're seeing citizens, gather at their state capitals, jam up highways, protesting, that, hey, you've overstepped your bounds here, governor, legislature, what have you. People are, got some sheriffs that are going public with letters that they've written to governors saying, I'm sorry, I'm not going to force businesses to stay closed. This is their livelihood. You've overstepped your bounds. So, Mark, like you said, people are kind of getting irritated, and something's going to happen soon. So if there isn't an event, the other logical conclusion that we're coming to is that they're going to use this as a way to push something else on us, get us some more poisons out there. Where, they've already got fluoride, they've got GMOs, they've got chemtrails, they've got EMFs, the 5G stuff, what have you. All of these things in the current vaccines. This is another one that they can maybe add to the population, and that's what we're going to talk a little bit about next. So, Mitch, I know what you've been telling me, the last couple of weeks that we've been talking about this is that the situation in Australia is quite different than here in the U.S. And that is that you guys, while you have way less deaths, way less impact, it seems, to the people health-wise, the rights there are really being taken away. You said that you have seen or heard of people getting followed, going out to the grocery store, being stopped and asked where they're going and that sort of thing. Have you been seeing that?
Absolutely. The police state here is absolutely ridiculous. You can't go down to the shops without seeing a police officer again, talk to a police officer again, ask what you're doing, do you have a reasonable excuse, and just being intimidated. And that's what it is, fear-based trauma. People don't want to go out because they think they're going to have to deal with police, and that's a scary thing.
Yeah, they don't know what to say, right? I mean, let's say they do have a good excuse, but for the people that don't have one but need to get out because they're going absolutely insane, they're staying home because they don't have a good excuse, and there's this perception that they can be made to stay home, at least here in the U.S. We did have a woman that apparently got arrested for taking her kids to a playground, and she obviously got released right away. But that thing makes its rounds in social media, and the idea is to show that, hey, you better not be doing that. But it sounds like you guys are seeing much more of a authoritarian presence, it seems like, than at least where I am here in Eastern Washington, where I've seen probably less police officers the last couple of weeks. Now, I haven't been on the road. I've been on the road quite a bit, but when I have been, I hardly see anybody out there. I hardly see any cops out there. I just see people going about their business.
And like I said last week, people need to know the legislation, need to know the laws, what they can and can't do. Because when you see news reports of learner drivers getting pulled over and getting fined because they're learning to drive, that's not in legislation. But that does put into the mind of people that see that. We can't go out and do that. When you see people at the beach getting fined, thinking we can't go and do that, but you can. You are free people. It's not just because there may be legislation, which there isn't for those particular cases, but just because you think there is legislation does not stop you from exercising your basic human rights.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, and I don't know what the laws are like there in Australia, but I know here in the U.S., to actually force people to stay home, we'd have to have an amendment to the U.S. Constitution that would give the powers to be to the local police, the local authorities, whatever, to actually force you to stay in your house. This is all a perceived threat to people, and these stay-at-home orders are just fear-based. If I went out and if I went out and I've been going out for runs, I've been going to the shops and that sort of thing, but if ever I was told that to leave, I would say that I have a right to be there, and they would write me a ticket. And the advice that I've gotten is you just accept the ticket and you don't pay it. You don't pay the fine. You mark that you want to have your day in court, because your day in court will never come. It will be dropped. It's not going to ever happen. There's no way they're going to be able to enforce that.
Exactly. If everyone stands up and says, no, I'm not paying this, I want to be heard in court because that's what your right is. In Australia here anyway, as I said last week, every fine and penalty notice is null and void unless it is handed out by a court, and only after you've been found guilty of an offence by the court. So let that sink into anyone who has ever got an infringement notice, a penalty notice by anyone other than a court, here in Australia anyway. And as you were saying, with the Constitution in America, we have a Constitution here in Australia, and if there is no amendment to that Constitution, it's not put into law in line with the Constitution, it is not law. And that a lot of state laws here in Australia do not line up with the Constitution law, and they are not lawful.
Exactly. And Mark, did you hear that there was the governor here in the state of Washington, Inslee is his name, that there's some people that are suing him because his emergency orders, according to state law here in Washington, can only last 30 days. And to go beyond that, he would have to have legislation passed, which he doesn't. So extending it beyond 30 days is a constitutional violation or something. And so he's had lawsuits filed against him. I mean, people are just going crazy now. I mean, this is just becoming a big legal battle now. It's crazy.
the legal, there would be a legal apocalypse after, if this doesn't, again, if something big doesn't happen, not only will there be a depression, but the legal cases will stack up for years. I mean, there are churches suing states, there are cities suing states, there are individuals suing universities. It just goes on and on and on and on, because why not? I mean, because the reason is because people are winging it. They're just saying, okay, we're going to lock down this, we're going to close this. And it's like, your bylaws or amendments or whatever say, no, you can't, but you're doing it anyway. Yep. Therefore, we are going to sue you when this is, if the dust ever clears on this. It's, yeah. Which is what for a real quick example would be if the governor of Washington, so what are they going to do? The whole town of Linden, they're going to reopen. What as the governor, what can you do there? Do you march in the National Guard? Because the local law enforcement isn't going to help you. The National Guard actually going to go in. By the way, it's
more room in the prisons now because they let all the prisoners go. So,
yeah, there's that. Also, by the way, let me throw in one more little tidbit for people that may not have figured this out, and that is if you're thinking, oh yeah, martial law is going to absolutely happen in the United States. No, you don't understand. There is not enough troops in all branches of the armed forces to enforce martial law, even for a couple states, let alone the whole thing. Yeah. Everything that's been happening to us now has been voluntary.
It's all been voluntary, exactly.
Everybody's under house arrest. Real quick, by the way, the only difference, at least in the United States, between house arrest and what's happening to us now is in house arrest, you can't drink. That's it. Literally, that's the only difference. You wear an ankle bracelet, and then they can, they check you to make sure you haven't been drinking because it's a punishment. Literally, it's that's how close we are to house arrest. Anyway.
Yeah, and it's the idea that people are staying home. They think it's because they have to, but no, they are voluntarily staying home. Now they will think that they have to stay home, and again, that's where the rub is. You got to dig into the laws to understand that they can only suggest it, and then it's up to you as a free citizen whether to abide by that or not.
Yeah. Yeah,
and that's where the story goes for the vaccinations as well. That's where we always have consent. There's a lot of people feeling pressured that they're going to be made to mandatorily take a vaccination. And that's never going to be the case. There is very little that is actually mandatory and what can be imposed on people.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that then, because I know there's a lot of people that maybe don't know the laws that are thinking, oh my gosh, is this, where's this going? Are they going to be pulling people out of houses like the WHO spokesman, alluded to a couple of weeks ago, which just freaked people out because they don't understand. And he was saying something like, well, we may have to pull sick people out of the houses to protect them from their loved ones. And you start getting these pictures in your head of police officers pulling you out of the house and sticking you with a shot. That's what they want in the back of your mind. So, that way you're operating only based on fear. But let's break that down a little bit. If let's say they do try to impose some sort of a mandatory, vaccination program for this, what do our rights allow us, Mitch, when it comes to being able to decline the services?
Yeah, well, it's that fear-based trauma again. You see it on the news, the WHO saying, we may be able to pull children out of the houses to get them medically checked, to get them vaccinations, and it pulls the emotional card. Like, it affects everyone who has children, everyone who has loved ones, and you think, can they do this? But here in Australia, they've already started to try and do that along the lines of not mandatory vaccination, but try and force you, intimidate you into being vaccinated. I think they do that in America too, with the no jab, no pay, no jab, no play, as in you can't go to daycare, you won't get paid social service money, and that is absolutely unlawful as well, because if you read the Australian Constitution anyway, section 51, subsection 23A is the right to benefits, and nobody can, under any circumstances, through threats, intimidation, coercion, take away or force you to do something in order to get a benefit, which is your right under the law. So that in itself, already going on, is unlawful. So that's what people need to actually know their own laws, what is going on, what they can and can't do, and stand up for what is already happening and what may happen, because it's all voluntary.
It's all voluntary. Yeah, it's the perceived authority. Again, it's a perceived threat. Mark, what do you see in as far as a a threat? You go out to the shops, on the island that you live. Are you seeing a police presence? Are you seeing police stop people to say where you're going? It seems we don't have that as much as some of the other countries have. Because I know in the UK it's been going on.
Yeah, the UK, I feel so bad for UK because they've given their law enforcement, and maybe their law enforcement take it more seriously than we do, because the stopping people in the street and pulling people out of parks. I mean, we do that in a few places here. I mean, I love the Tom Brady story where he was pulled off of a park, and before they realized who he was, and there's like, yeah, sorry, you can't stay here. It's like, wow, if Tom Brady gets pulled, that means that all the gloves are off. But no, they're not. There's no checkpoints here. I mean, I'm on a rural island north of Seattle, so it's not that serious. I mean, there's a few stores that are making people line up, 6 feet apart outside the store and letting in. The most ridiculous thing I saw was a hardware store, Ace Hardware, that they were basing it. I don't know who put out the guidelines, but it's spread around to different states, which was they were only allowing 4 or 5 people per 1,000 square feet. And I know, right? And so I go to the store, and the automatic doors are shut, and there's a sign that's saying, "Oh yeah, by the way, because of blah 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 guidelines, we're only allowing 15 people in the store at any one time." I'm going, 15? I go, you have more employees than the amount of people that are in there. And they like one register, and they would pry the automatic doors open and let you in. They didn't require masks, which was weird. But they kept this strict 6-foot distance. They wouldn't, at no point, were you, they wouldn't allow returns or anything like that. But no law enforcement, none of that intimidation crap. And to your point, though, there's two things. If they tried to force vaccines in the United States, there's two problems they might have. One, of course, would be the religious side, because as you know, if you all of a sudden you ramped up and said, "Oh yeah, we're absolutely forcing a vaccine," there would the Christian community would automatically jump on this and say, "Okay, there's your mark of the beast right there," and that rumor would spread, true or not, would spread like wildfire immediately across the country.
I want to think what the courts would be busy now, or after this economic sort of situation. Imagine what it would be if mandatory vaccinations came.
Yeah.
The courts would be clogged for forever.
Absolutely, and if you tried to force it with the pay to work or whatever he said, if you holding back, it's like you can't work until you have a vaccination. Yes, that also leads into some legal things, because as you know, we have conscientious objectors when it comes to war, and there's people that like opt out of surgeries for religious reasons. Also, so that would be tough too. Again, without some sort of catalyst, you can do it. Again, I'm speaking as a future overlord villain. You could do all these things, right? You can. These things are all possible with what you're doing now, but it's way easier if you create a secondary catalyst that a shock and awe thing that all of a sudden it's like makes people. Because I'm sorry, people just aren't afraid. Now, yeah, they're following what's happening on the television, which drives me to freaking drink. Because, in fact, a quick one would be like, people believe the world that is presented to them, and what is presented to them is through the media. So, like, if all of a sudden the media said, "Hey, by the way, starting Monday, this coming Monday, you all should wear polka dot masks." Right? If all they'd have to do is say that without any backing whatsoever, I guarantee you on Monday you're going to see polka dot masks. Because they told us to. And you say, well, they're sheep. Don't feel too bad. Don't get too angry, because you gotta remember, what alternative do they have? Yeah. If all the news stations say the same thing, where else are you going to go? Other than maybe,
all I can think then is, if something big doesn't happen soon, like you said, it's got to happen soon, because it's starting to fall apart on them. I mean, I've got more and more acquaintances and family members that are saying, okay, I'm starting to, my BS meter here, my bologna sandwich meter here is starting to go off.
Exactly.
It's getting late. So if this event doesn't happen soon, all I can think of is then that they're going to try and roll this around in the fall again, and they're going to come up with bigger numbers. They're just going to keep doing this until enough people are getting scared to the point where they can make some change. Maybe they were hoping to make the impact bigger, and it didn't happen for whatever reason. Maybe they maybe they have to have millions of people supposedly dead, but I don't know how they would do that because everybody is going to know everybody, and it's going to say, all right, well, who do you know?
Exactly. Plus,
it's got to be. I just don't get it. I don't.
I'm absolutely with you. I say the same thing. I'm looking up. I'm going, okay, when are you going to pull the trigger on this? In fact, that was my rant from the last show. I go, when are you going to pull the trigger on this? As a villain, I'm saying this because, in fact, it was a message to the puppet masters. I'm going, you guys are running out of time. Your window is closing. If you think you can drag this thing out to the fall, you got another thing coming because think short term here, which is no one has any money for rent. And all of a sudden, you're going to find you want to kick the can down the road and say, well, you can't evict people for 90 days. Fine, that pushes you only till summer. That's all you got. And then what are you going to do? You can't tell landlords to not, because then you're going to have to tell the banks, oh, by the way, you can't foreclose on the landlords or the people that are paying mortgages. Oh, by the way, you can't do that indefinitely. Eventually, the debt is so much. Unless you all of a sudden clear all the debts, you can make people feel better then and say, "Oh yeah, by the way," but you don't have the money to do that. No. I mean, the $3 trillion you've already spent has just kept people on life support, and even that has to be repaid.
Well, one thing's for sure: the economic impact is real. Whether the virus is something that's really is something that you can get sick from or not, I have my doubts on that. But the economic impact here is something that's very real, and that's what the fallout's going to be. That's what we're going to have to deal with or without an event. Yeah,
and sorry, one more thing before you guys chime in, which is the economic, this ties into the economic impact, and that is if you try to just back off from this thing and say, well, our estimates of 3 million dead in the United States seems to be way off since we're 5 months in and we haven't even hit 50,000. But if you try to back off, then all of a sudden there'll be what I call the accounting, which is all of a sudden you'll have a lot of financial people, a lot of corporate lawyers, people will step in and say, was it worth it? No one will be able to validate that. Of course, they won't be callous and say, well, you can't put a price on human life. Of course you can. You can put a price on human life all day long. You just can't put a price on your own life or your family's life. But from a corporate standpoint, you absolutely can. And so all of a sudden, if we come into the summer, people, or if we just all of a sudden back off and say, well, it's all clear, then, which I don't think will happen, but if you try to do that, then you're going to have a lot of people saying, okay, did that warrant... Did 50,000 people, assumed 50,000 people, warrant a multi-trillion-dollar shutdown? $1 trillion. And I can't think of any people in the financial sector that would agree. It's like, look, we're talking about either all the jobs or a few thousand people. Sorry. There's no choice there. Anyway.
Mitch, you got the final word. We're about ready to head to break. Last word.
It's almost as if this is a giant social experiment just to see how far they can pull the reins up on us having total control without us breaking the reins, and how far it will take until people will start to push back. We're seeing protests everywhere. Facebook's trying to shut down most of the mass gatherings that people put up, but we're still seeing the protests open our towns, open our cities, open our states. And I think that's that time at the moment where, as you said, Mark, people are pushing back. Has this gone far enough? It's all up to the individual person.
I wouldn't put it past them that this was a learning exercise and planning for something even bigger. That in of itself, will cause your brain to probably do some backflips and trying to figure out what that could be. But at the end of the day, they did a poor. Just the numbers aren't there. So the question is going to be, how long will people put up with this, and what's the economic impact going to be, assuming that there is no event if it doesn't happen soon, because people are getting sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Exactly. It's a very individual.
Live with their spouses so long.
Yeah, right.
It is a very individual thing, and it is infecting people on an individual level mentally.
That's right. Exactly. All right.
And it is.
Go ahead. Finish your thought. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it is up to people on the individual level to take control of yourself, of your own life, and exercise your own rights. Do not be coerced into things that you don't want to be doing.
That's the point. Know the laws. Use them to your advantage. You're a free person. You're a free citizen. You have rights. For Pete's sake, act like it. That was my parting shot. All right, you're listening to Dome Life with Paul and Mitch, exposing the globe lie and the corona lie, amongst other things. We're headed to the second and final break. We will be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Don't forget, you can listen to Dome Life on your smart speaker. Just say, "Hey Alexa, hello, play Dome Life podcast."
Hey friends, Joe Garcia with Question Everything Conferences. And when I want the most up-to-date information on the latest research, trends and proofs, and interviews with the most interesting and captivating guests, I tune into the Dome Life podcast with my friends, Paul and Mitch. And remember to question everything.
Yo, I cannot believe that I got a commercial spot on the #1 weekly Flat Earth podcast in the world, my buddy Paul on the Plane. Hey guys, this is Matt Long from Woketown. And if you want some other awesome Flat Earth content, be sure to check out Woketown on all major podcast platforms, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Woketown.
Hi, this is Rob Skiba, and you're listening to Dome Life with Paul and Mitch.
Roxanne and Robin's podcast is back for Season 3. Our podcast shines a light on those making a difference today, and we also share our insights on the latest breakthroughs in exposing the globe lie, making sure it becomes part of the conversation. Each episode, we delve deep into the minds of our fascinating guests, covering a wide range of subjects, and introducing some of the best conscious music out there. Also, we connect you, our wonderful audience, with each other. Find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify and Google Play, and you can also join the conversation during our premieres of the podcast shortly after the release on YouTube. We look forward to you joining the conversation. That's Roxanne and Robin's podcast. See you there.
Hi, everybody. Bob from Globebusters here, and you're listening to the #1 Flat Earth podcast out there, Dome Life with Paul and Mitch.
Dome Life, exposing the globe lie.
All right, welcome back to Dome Life one more time, exposing the globe lie and the corona lie. Okay, it's time to hear from you, our listeners. Congratulations again to Bernard, who was the winner of last week's show drawing for a Dome Life t-shirt. Congratulations again to Bernard. Okay, the question this week was, who would you like to see on the show? Who would you like to see us interview on the show? And let's see who is going to win a t-shirt this week. Punch it, Mitch.
I'll let Mark punch the button today. Mark, you want to touch the button? I don't want to touch it. It might have coronavirus on it.
Touch the.
Oh, I'm not just going to touch it. I'm going to lick it.
You don't have a glove on? You got to put your glove on.
I'm going to lick my hand and then hit it. There you go.
Let's hear what's on your mind.
Accessing speak pipes.
All right. The question for this week was, who would you like to see as a guest on the show? We will see who chimed in on that question and gets entered into this week's drawing for a free Dome Live podcast t-shirt. We've got a bunch of speak pipes this week, so we're going to have to move kind of quickly through because of time constraints. All right. The first one is from Matt.
Fourth time, my goodness. Two people, Eric Dubé or Rob Skiba, both very instrumental in my awakening 4 years ago. Rob for his Christian perspective, which I am, and Eric for his 200 pros perspective, which was very enlightening. Now, I don't know if you have gang wars with these guys, but I would love to have you interview either one. So that's it for me.
Wow. Thanks, Matt. Just so you know, that did not, as you heard, did not come in very well at all. But I did make it out. He said, in case you guys didn't catch it, he recommended Eric Dubé. Mark loves Eric Dubé. So he would be a good one. And Rob Skiba. Rob Skiba, I think, has been on the show before. At least he's been over on TFR. So thanks, Matt, for the suggestion. You're entered into this week's drawing. Let's move right over to Mike.
What's up, guys? So one could say that Netflix is in most people's homes. And what is the hottest show on Netflix right now? That's right, The Tiger King. Now, personally, I haven't watched it. I don't know if I'm going to get around to it. I may just watch the first and the last episode. Save myself a few hours. I heard that's a good way to watch it and still kind of get the gist of it. Anyway, Tiger King is arguably one of the hottest shows right now. The most popular. Everyone's talking about it. And what else happened lately in the past month or so, past couple weeks? Yeah. Tigers got infected with the coronavirus. Coincidence? I don't know. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. And for the question of the week, who would I like to hear on your show? None other than the one and only Curious J. That's right. For some listeners that don't know who that is, just tune into early episodes of the Flat Earth podcast. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Mike. Yeah, that was interesting. The Tiger King is the most popular show, and then we hear there's a tiger somewhere. It was over somewhere in Asia, I think it was, or maybe it was India, that supposedly contracted the coronavirus. I heard yesterday, or was it the day before, that 2 cats in New York have tested positive. So now we have to make sure our dogs and cats are social distancing. I can't wait to see some dogs with gloves and masks on walking in Central Park. That's going to be going to be a lot of fun. Get some
can you move those recordings any closer to the microphone?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
You're not able to hear them?
Well, I can, but it's not really great, and I'm wearing headphones. So. All
right, got it. I will turn up the volume as well.
All right.
Up next is Rob.
Hi, Paul and Mitch. It's Rob from Scotland, aka Theoretical World YouTube. Potential guest, David J. Karen. I think it'd be fascinating to find out how he came into the peace movement and how he uses that to stimulate his artistic works that he's doing. It's just a suggestion. Catch you boys later.
All right, thanks, Rob. That was a little muffled recording there, too.
That was horrible. That was horrible.
I think some people... Rob, you might have had your finger over the microphone when you sent that message.
Take your mask of shame off before you talk, Rob.
Oh, that's right. He's wearing a mask.
People are wearing masks now. That's why. He said David J. Karen. If you guys haven't heard his music, he is awesome. We've had a lot of his music out here on his show. So, I in fact have asked David if he would like to come on the show. He said that maybe that's something that he would consider down the road. So, Rob, I have asked him. Thanks for that suggestion. We'll definitely enter you into the drawing. This next speak pipe, hopefully. This person has taken off their mask before they left the message. This is from an individual by the name of Slaw by Jacques St. James.
Hi, this is Slaw by Jacques St. James. You can find me on Facebook or Instagram. My Instagram feed would be Rise Up, Rebel, Revolt. I stand for humanity. I stand for everything. I got a question. Is there really a situation of a government or a tyrannical government in any secret society exposing anything every day about falsehood against humanity? Basically, the question, are there Zionist, Mason, military police that live in every community and country and work against humanity?
All right. Thank you, Slaw. Were you guys able to hear that one?
Not even 3 words.
Mitch,
you're probably gonna have to chop and paste these in.
Mitch, were you able to hear that?
Was he leaving long pauses in between, or is it just?
Oh my gosh! All right. Well, he was asking. I can hear it just fine here. I don't know what's wrong with you guys. Maybe you need to take your masks off your ears.
Well, no, I don't know. It's coming through like second generation when we're hearing it.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, we'll definitely fix that in post-production here. But he was asking about if we think that there are Freemasons, those types of secret societies in every city in the world, every part of the world that are kind of working together. I think that's kind of what I took away from it. So, and Slaw, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but he was, I think, trying to get our thoughts on how big the secret societies are across the world. Either of you have an answer?
Yeah. Secret societies run everything. However, the hierarchy, I think, really depends from country to country. And it's one of my favorite things for conspiracy people. If you could ask 100 conspiracy people, give me your top 20 secret societies in order of importance, and they're all going to give you different answers. So, and that's the whole point. You don't know who the top target is, or you might have an idea, but you don't know for sure. Not enough to aim a rifle at, because the first rule of power has never changed in thousands of years. First rule of power is stay hidden. That's it.
Very good. Very good. All right.
Here in Australia, every single town here in Australia has a Masonic hall. There's even Masonic villages, but in saying that there's a lot of worker bees. There's a lot of people very low on the hierarchy that just are in it for the mateship, just to be part of a group. But yeah, as you said, Mark, the hierarchy,
Yeah.
that's a whole different story.
Yeah, but don't forget the Simpsons Stonecutters episode where 99% of them, it's like, let's just get drunk and play ping pong. That's basically what most
Exactly.
people do.
Yeah, like a fraternity.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right, good. Hope that helps, Slaw. Thanks again for the message. Up next is William.
Hi guys, it's Bill Finch checking back in from California. Just wanted to let you know the moon is behaving exactly. I believe it was episode 209. The moon is behaving exactly as I suggested at that day. That was, if you remember, briefly after the winter solstice, and it was, I think, the second full moon after. Anyhow, now we're into the full moon after the equinox, and the moon is now lit on the Tropic of Capricorn side. Just like the first one coming around in October, the full moon side was on the Tropic of Cancer side. The sun is now in the Tropic of Cancer. Okay, so it's going towards summer for us. Anyhow, the other thing was Mitch was talking about a couple things. I think he mentioned maritime. I'd like to swing back. The person I'd love to have you guys get is Peter Hendrickson. That guy is great. Maybe I could do it by proxy. I don't know. But basically, the income tax is not an income tax. That's recalled a capitation or a direct unapportioned tax, okay? And so there is a Supreme Court ruling. It's called Brushaber versus Union Pacific Railroad. The Supreme Justice says what it is, talks about what the 16th Amendment does. Anyhow, I'd love to give you more information about it, but I'm running out of time. That's 90 seconds.
That's 90 seconds. Yeah, thanks, Bill. So I have not heard of that gentleman. Peter Hendrickson, I think is what you said. And again, it's about knowing the laws. And I think we've all heard that taxation is slavery. So when we're starting to talk about federal income tax and things of that nature, when you really want to dig into the laws, you're finding out that, at least from my understanding, I'm curious to get your guys' perspective on this. It probably works a little differently in Australia, but maybe it doesn't, Mitch. But taxes are voluntary. When you really get down into it, you have the ability to say, no, I'm not paying my taxes, or you just don't.
Yeah, absolutely. It is actually in the Constitution that tax is voluntary. Income tax anyway. It's different for businesses, but income tax, it actually says the word voluntary. And it was actually brought in, I think, after World War II to pay the national debt, and it was meant to be abolished in 10 years, but they've liked it so much and there's such a good revenue income that they just kept it and people just keep paying it.
Mark, any thoughts?
On taxes, no. No, I don't, because I've seen what happens when some people try to, go follow the letter of the law and say there's no taxes, and they go through hoops. And look, they're gonna
harass you. It's definitely.
Oh yeah, they're gonna harass you to no end. I treat it kind of like the 6-gun law. In a lot of states, you can wear a freaking gun on your holster, just on your side, taped to your pant leg type thing. But watch what happens when you walk into a Target or a Walmart with that. Watch what happens to you. It's totally legal for you to do this, but it's not going to be very fun.
You're going to have a lot of attention for sure.
Yeah, a little bit.
Thanks, William, for that. All right, let's move over to Ray.
Hey, Paul and Mitch, something's going on.
I met a man today who looked like he was homeless, but he wasn't alone. He had his dog to keep him company. So I said, man, you look like you could use a decent meal. Why don't you take this sandwich that my girl made for me? And he said, we don't need bologna. We don't need bologna. We don't need bologna. Phony scenes, fake magazines, caught in a machine behind the TV. They don't want us to see. Maybe it's not exactly as it seems. There's something going on.
All right, thanks, Ray.
Is he in the draw?
Thanks for that.
Is he in the draw for the shirt?
I couldn't make out all of the words. You'll have to send me the lyrics, Ray. That was interesting. Was that your beat or was that somebody else's? Appreciate that for sure. I'm not sure how that went with the question of the week, but we definitely appreciate the attention. All right, let's head over to our next caller, our next message, and that is from Susan.
Hey, new listener. My name is Susan. I am calling because grown up listening to We Live in a Ball. However, your podcast intrigues me. It really does. But I do have some questions that I can't quite understand the answer. I know you probably explained them before, but I just need another go around. One is the ice wall. How is that a ship can sail around the world and there's no pictures of the ice wall? And from the air, it cannot be seen as a wall, if you could answer that. I've heard the curve argument before, so I tested it, and you're correct in terms of 8-degree curve, I think it is. So the question for me is, how is it that we still can only see so far, whether it is in the air or, as I tested in the tower of a building that I work in, on a clear day, I know I'm seeing a lot farther than what the ballers state, including in an airplane. So why can't I see all the way across? Gravity. If not this thing called gravity, then what keeps us on the planet? And I understand how we don't spin. That I can accept. I have downloaded the Flat Earth Clock. It does make sense. And finally, for now anyway, in the beginning, people believed that there was a flat Earth. Somebody comes along and says, nope, not true. We live in a ball. That now becomes the prevailing thinking. So my question is, how are you going to go back from that? And what is it that's going to convince people finally of this? I'm kind of halfway between of each. So I really want to believe in what you're saying. I just need a little bit more proof. Thanks. Appreciate it. Bye.
Oh, what a breath of fresh air Susan is, I have to say. It's so good to be talking about Flat Earth again for at least momentarily. All right. So ice wall. Seeing further as you go up in altitude, and gravity. Mark, ice wall, go.
Ice wall. The ice wall isn't the Game of Thrones ice wall that most people think of. It's just the beginning of it's the Antarctic coastline. That's where it starts, but that's not the edge of the world. As everyone knows, it continues thousands of miles inward and goes up to at least 14,000 feet, plateaus out, and then there's some mountain ranges. So no, the Antarctic coastline is the beginning of the ice wall, and it's very, very, very big.
Awesome. Hopefully that helps, Susan. Definitely reach out if you want more information about the ice wall or the ice shoreline, I guess would be maybe a good way to put it as well. It's a shoreline, not necessarily, like you said, an ice wall from Game of Thrones.
Right.
Mitch, I'm going to throw over to you. How come we can see further at the top of a building or even on an airplane than we do standing on the ground?
That's a great question, and it is something that everyone can observe, and it's something that absolutely happens no matter where you are. It's all about the angle of resolution, so that if you go up in altitude, you're increasing the angle to a distant object. If you go down in altitude, you are decreasing the angle, and that creates a diffraction limit closer to your vision. That's what the horizon is. It is just the diffraction limit, the limit to where your vision can actually see things. Nathan Oatley has a great analogy for this. If you have a brick in front of you, you can see that brick. If you have the brick 100 meters, it gets a bit smaller as it goes away. You can maybe still see that brick. If you have it at 5 miles away, you're not going to be able to see that brick. But pile 100,000 bricks on top of that to make a skyscraper, you're going to see the skyscraper, but you won't see the bottom bricks. That's just how our vision works. As things get further away, they go into the diffraction limit from the bottom up.
Perfect.
And let me. She threw one more thing in there: is why can't she see very, 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 very far? And she was the same. Is it partially because of the atmosphere? Yes, it is. The atmosphere has a thickness no different than the water below. So the limit, I think, at sea level is pushing 150 miles because you're looking through. It's something that's only 99% transparent, and it gets thicker and thicker over distance. It's mostly nitrogen and partially oxygen. So that's why you can't see one of the things. Why can't you see Japan from San Francisco, and why can't you see Mount Everest from everywhere? And that is because of the atmosphere is just the thickness. If you pulled it out, and we'd all be dead. But if we were living in a vacuum, yeah, you would be able to see much, much, much further.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. You've kind of got two things working against you when you try to see really far. You've obviously got, having to look through the air, which isn't 100% transparent, and the further away. That's why the mountain looks kind of opaque, kind of a bluish, as you get further and further away, it slowly disappears. You can kind of make it out, and it's still there, but it's turning a little different color as you're looking through more and more air. And then the simple fact that things get smaller. I know this is kind of like breaking news for people, but things get smaller. They appear to get smaller the further they are away from you. Okay, yeah. So that's the angle of resolution. I think the human eye, according to science, can resolve up to 0.02 degrees or something like that. So as an object's getting further and further away, that angle of incidence is decreasing, eventually gets below 0.02, and you can't see it. But when you go to the top of the building, you have increased that angle of resolution towards the object to a much higher degree, literally, and therefore you're able to see it. You go on an airplane and you're 5, 6, 7 miles up, your angle of resolution is extremely increased from where it is on the ground. Gravity. She said, if gravity isn't holding us down, and I think you guys would both have a little bit different response to this, so I'd like to hear from both of you. Mark, gravity isn't holding us down. What is keeping us grounded?
Oh, I think it's both. As you know, I believe in gravity, but only to a certain extent. I also think it's also buoyancy, which means you're in a pressurized container. No different than water, and that is, you hold a beach ball underneath the water, it's going to pop back up. Why? Because of density and buoyancy. It's the reason why when you take a helium balloon and you let go, it flies up, and it goes up to the ceiling of this thing. And the follow-up thing to that for her would be, tell me where our atmosphere ends and space begins. Why, when a balloon, let's say it doesn't pop, why doesn't that balloon just rush off into space with the rest of our atmosphere? And that is because it can't, because it's a pressurized system. But I think it's both. I do believe in a little bit of gravity, but I don't think it's the solo factor by any stretch.
Cool. Mitch?
Yeah, along those lines, I think it is relative density disequilibrium, which is, I'll break it down, relative as in you're comparing two different things, density as in the makeup of something, the mass of something, how dense things are, and disequilibrium. If something is in equilibrium, it's not going anywhere. Like water, it finds its level, finds equilibrium. If you pick up a microphone, you've taken it out of equilibrium. It's now in disequilibrium, and the density of the air around that microphone is less than the density of the actual microphone. So it wants to find its equilibrium again. It's relative to the air, and it will drop.
Good stuff. The other thing I'd like to add is, why don't people question the laws of physics when it comes to, I'm talking about the Newtonian laws of physics. If for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction, that's just a law, right? I mean, that's just the way it works. We're able to observe that. We've got these laws. I think up is up, down is down, and heavier objects are going to settle below lighter objects is another natural law. I think that's another law that governs our world. So I think the same reason as to why we say, why does everything happen? I think you guys both kind of got into the explanation of why, but I'd say that I would put, what is holding us down, I would say that's a natural law that I would put in the same bucket as these other natural laws, that this is the way that our world works. It's just the way the creator or the creators, Mark, to use your theory on this, that's the way they've designed it to work. Okay. Yeah. We don't question, why is there an opposite and equal reaction? Well, it just is. Well, why is up and down down? Well, it just is. That's the way it works.
Yeah. Yeah, and by one more thing would be which I love using science against itself, which is even your best physicists will say that they can't tell you what gravity is. They can only tell you what it does. They can only tell you the side effects of gravity, because they cannot replicate it artificially. They can't create their own gravity field, at least not publicly.
Yep. And the other point, Susan, is when somebody is talking about gravity, it's important to ask which type are they talking about, because there's Newtonian gravity and there's Einsteinian gravity. Newton said it was based on mass attracting mass. Einstein came along and said, well, that doesn't really work, and it's actually the bending of space-time. And now you can even read articles now that are saying physicists now are even questioning Einstein's theory. So we have to differentiate between the different theories of gravity that actually have existed in our history. And this goes to Mark's point, is even the best minds in the world can't explain it, It just is. It's a natural law. All right, we've got one more, and that is Sean.
Hey, Paul and Mitch. This is Sean from Tennessee. First of all, I'd like to thank y'all for what you do, and I received my meetup in a box the other day, so thank you and Pastor Nate for that. For the question this week, who I would like to see as a guest or an interview, I would say probably Austin Whitsitt or UAP would be great. So thank you all for what you do, and God bless you all and your families. Bye.
All right, thanks, Sean. Glad you got that meetup in a box. Hopefully you'll be able to organize that meetup soon without too much harassment. Find a local establishment that is not obeying the governor's orders in that state. I'm assuming you're calling from the U.S. But, yeah, congratulations on getting that. And be sure that you also shoot the details when you get that scheduled over to Mark, because he will put that up on the channel and advertise that for you. It'll be good. Mark, how long has it been since you did a meetup video promo?
Oh, it's been a few weeks. I mean, there were some that were done in Canada. I was going to say Canada, some up in Canada, but the rest, of course. It's not that we don't have. Here's the thing: there are flat Earth people that would love to do a meetup, but they have nowhere to meet because there's nothing freaking open. I have no doubt that flat Earthers would buck the trend and be like, but right now the only places they can go are community centers and civil centers and stuff like that. Even if they can find them,
yeah,
that's the tough part. I mean, yeah, they could try going to a park. Maybe that'll happen here real soon, but right now. 90% of the meetups are usually done in bars and or restaurants.
That's right. Good stuff. All right, thanks again, Sean. That will do it. So we had a number of people that chimed in on the question of the week. So let's see who's going to win this week's T-shirt. And we'll put these names in here. Drum roll, please. Congratulations, Matt. You're this week's winner of a free Dome Life podcast T-shirt, so I will be in touch with you very soon to get your details so I can ship one out to you. Don't forget to listen each week and chime in with your answer to the question of the week to be entered into a drawing for a free T-shirt. Congratulations again to Matt. Okay, this week's question: do you think there is some other event coming, or was this a scamdemic? I'll try to say that right. Scamdemic by the powers that should not be.
To leave us a speak pipe, simply go to domelifepodcast.com and record your message. We look forward to having you on air.
And if you'd like to snag a Dome Life t-shirt without having to wait, you can order one at paulandtheplane.com/gear. Men's and women's versions and a whole host of colors and sizes are available. I don't know if you saw it, Mark, but Karen B was sporting a sweet Dome Life Not Real We Check t-shirt. Showed it on Facebook and Instagram this past week. So that was really good to see. Big shout out to Karen B. And if you are listening and have purchased one, please snap a picture of yourself or have someone else do it and shoot it over to me so I can add it to the website. And you could see all of those photos over at paulandtheplane.com/photo wall. And with that, I guess we'll wrap up for another week. Mitchell, Mark, thank you so much for being here with me. Mitchell, any last comments from you?
I just want to know if Mark has a shirt. I think we should get him as a shirt and get him on the wall.
I will. I don't have a shirt, but if I get a shirt, I will absolutely take some shots with it, with pants on.
Coincidentally, it should be arriving very soon, Mark, because that's why I was asking you a couple of days ago what your size was. So, when is it? I was hoping that it was like it arrived earlier today. It might even be there this afternoon. I'll have to go back and look at the track.
Oh, that's awfully nice. Did you do that because I'm getting older? That is that why you did it?
Well, I just figured, you've probably been in the same shirt for a couple of weeks now, and you
Thanks.
can probably use a new one.
This isn't the real apocalypse yet. I'm not in that mood.
Our postal service still works, UPS, FedEx, and all that, so it can't be that bad out there. The zombies may be running around, but they're leaving the FedEx drivers alone.
Apparently.
And if you have feedback on the show, have a story to share, or have a question for us, just want to say hello, leave us a speak pipe over at domelifepodcast.com and look for the link at the bottom of the page to leave us a message, or you can simply dial 702-706-FLAT. That's 702-706-3528. You can leave us a message there. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're just now discovering this podcast, man, you have missed so much. But don't worry, you can listen to all of the past episodes of Dome Life with Paul and Mitch, including the Season 1 finale with the one and only Mark Sargent, over at domelifepodcast.com, also on most major podcast platforms, SoundCloud, iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, Google Play, and Spotify, to mention a few. Okay, Mark, you're up. The last word.
My last word is, if the event doesn't happen, I will be so disappointed, because I appreciate good writing. I love good plot lines, and 2020, I will say this, has not disappointed. It has been even stranger than I would have thought. But I'm crossing my fingers. I'm still holding out for the catalyst, the event that will take this to stage 2.
It's going to be a great movie, and that's what the title would be, The Event.
There you go.
It would be great. All right,
Yeah.
We're waiting, everybody. We're waiting. Thank you so much for tuning in. Much love across the plane. Thank you again for being a listener to Dome Life with Paul and Mitch every week, where we expose the lies of this world, analyze the fake news, and until we get to speak again, open your heart, open your mind, open your Bible, question everything, and of course, stay flat. Say goodbye, gentlemen.
See ya.
Bye.
Vaccine, 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 vaccine.